He didn't say a word. Just came in through the back door quiet, careful like he already knew something sacred was about to break open. I stood there, barefoot on the cold tile, pretending to scroll through my phone like I wasn't aching to be noticed. Like I hadn't spent the past 3 nights lying next to a man who used to reach for me in his sleep, but now just turned away. I heard the click of the lock, the soft creak of the floorboard by the hallway vent, and then the sound of something solid being set down. I turned my head slowly, and that's when I saw him kneeling. Not at me but in front of that old sink that's been leaking for months. He didn't rush. Didn't speak. Just unzipped his heavy black case 1 inch at a time like he was unsealing something ancient. Like this was more than just a job. And the silence in the room? It wasn't empty. It was thick. Heavy with all the things we weren't saying. The hum of the fridge, the ticking of the wall clock, the low breath caught in my throat, it all wrapped around us like fog. Everything about him, the way he moved, the way he kept his eyes down, respectful like he was here to repair more than just pipes. Then he reached in, pulled out this massive tool, black, clean, well-used. And he set it down on the tile, right there between us. And when he looked up at me, just looked, nothing else, everything inside me shifted. Like something that had been locked up in the dark for so long finally felt the door crack open. And maybe it sounds crazy, but it wasn't just the way he looked at me. It was the way I felt seen in that look. Like he noticed I wasn't okay before even I could admit it. And something in me whispered this man came to fix something I didn't even know was broken. Maybe not in the sink. Maybe not in the house. Maybe in me. Before I tell you what happened next, take a deep breath. Like, subscribe, and breathe with me. Because where we're about to go, you'll need it. This is Olivia Touching Tales. And what you're about to hear changed everything. It started earlier that week. Not with him. Not with the knocking or the tool or the look he gave me that made my knees soften. It started in the quiet. The kind of quiet that creeps in when you stop being lovers and start being roommates who share bills and toothbrush holders. I remember the mornings, the ones where I'd already be awake when he walked into the kitchen. Not for me. Just for the coffee. He wouldn't look at me, not in the way he used to. No slow smile, no teasing touch across my lower back. Just, did you pay the water? And me, yeah. And then nothing. I watched him eat cereal once with his headphones in. A podcast about investing or politics or God knows what. He sat across from me, chewing, nodding, and I could have been a ghost in the chair. He was there, but not with me. Like we were on the same page, but different books entirely. The house echoed that emptiness. The pipe under the sink had been leaking. Not gushing, just the slow, annoying drip. Like the house was crying quietly so nobody would hear it. The cold air snuck in through the cracked window in the laundry room. The light in the hallway flickered every time I walked by like it was trying to get my attention. I kept thinking, something's off. Not wrong, exactly. Just distant. Faded. Like everything me, him, us had been washed in warm water too many times, and now it was all losing shape. So I called someone. Not a name. Just a number from a card I'd found at the hardware store. Said repairs done right. No questions, no nonsense. And 2 days later he knocked. Not loud, but deep. 3 short knocks, low and sure. Like the world itself was asking if I was ready for something different. I opened the door and there he was. No smile. No charm. Just calm. He didn't come in with swagger. Didn't try to impress me with confidence. He wasn't trying at all. He just was. There was something about the way he stood there, boots planted like he belonged wherever he was. A man who'd fixed 1,000 things, not just with his hands, but with patience. Presence. He stepped inside, slow. Not like he was walking into a stranger's kitchen, but like he was listening to the walls. And me? I was so used to being invisible I didn't even realize I'd been holding my breath until he looked at me, just a glance, and something in me unclenched. He didn't ask if the pipe was leaking. He walked straight to the sink, knelt down, and unzipped that black case like it held the answers to every silent question I'd been asking myself for months. And in that moment, I swear to you, I felt the air shift. Not because he touched me, not because he said anything, but because he brought a kind of stillness into the room I didn't know I was starving for. It was like, you ever walk into a forest and feel the weight of everything fall off your shoulders? That's what his presence felt like. Not loud, not showy, just real. And when he knelt in front of the cabinet and started pulling out tools, laying them out carefully like sacred objects, I found myself leaning on the counter, eyes tracing the way his forearms moved beneath his shirt. There was power in him, yes, but not the kind that intimidates. It was the kind that protects, holds, heals. And I remember thinking, this man knows how to fix things without making a mess of them. And God, how long had it been since I felt like I wasn't something messy to someone? The kind of mess he wouldn't run from. The kind he'd stay with until it stopped dripping and started feeling whole again. My husband. He had tried. I don't want to sit here and paint him as the villain. Because he wasn't. He isn't. He left notes, sometimes little ones. Pick up more oat milk? Or, thanks for doing the laundry. And sometimes he'd kiss my cheek on his way out the door. Still called me babe. Still reached for my hand in public sometimes. But it all felt like echoes. Like the memory of love, not the thing itself. He was doing the things husbands are supposed to do. But none of it entered me. None of it reached that deep, quiet ache I didn't even know how to name. It wasn't about sex. It wasn't even about romance. It was about presence. It was about being seen. Not glanced at. Seen. Seen the way you stand barefoot in the hallway, fingers wrapped around a mug you haven't taken a sip from. Seen when your shoulders sag a little lower than they used to. Seen when you wear mascara again after weeks of not caring and no one notices. My husband saw me the way you see furniture you've owned for too long, useful, familiar, expected. But that man on the floor, the one with the tools. He didn't even look at me directly at first. And somehow, I felt more visible than I had in weeks. I stood behind him, barely breathing, watching his hands move with a kind of focus that made me jealous of the pipe he was touching. Steady, patient, intentional. He wasn't rushing. He wasn't distracted. He was with what he was doing. Every twist of the wrench. Every time he paused to feel where the water was leaking. He was listening with more than just his ears. It was like he respected the leak. And God, when was the last time someone looked at my cracks and didn't try to dismiss them? Didn't shame them? Didn't say, you're being dramatic, or just relax? When was the last time someone made me feel like I could unravel a little and it wouldn't be the end of the world? That's what started to wake something in me. Not lust. Not fantasy. Just this slow heat. This coil in my spine that had been cold for so long, it forgot it was allowed to move. I didn't even notice I was standing closer until my toes were almost brushing against his boots. And he just kept working unbothered. Like he knew I was there. And didn't need to perform for me. Didn't need to flirt or pretend. He was just being. There's something so intimate about being around a man who doesn't need attention. Who offers it instead. And I don't mean attention like compliments or flattery. I mean the kind of attention that's present. The kind that says without words, I'm here. I see you. You're safe to exist here. And that was it. That was the thing I'd been missing. I didn't want grand gestures. I didn't want someone to fix me. I just wanted someone to sit in the mess with me. To not look away. My husband loved me, I believe that. But he didn't know how to sit with my pain. He wanted to sweep it up. Tell me I was beautiful when I felt invisible. Tell me to breathe when I was already drowning. This man, this stranger, didn't say a word. But in his silence, I felt understood. Not in the way that makes your heart flutter, but in the way that makes your body exhale. And in that kitchen, with the broken pipe and the flickering light, I felt something inside me begin to soften. A tight, clenched part of my chest started to loosen like a fist unfolding. And I knew. This wasn't about him. It was about me. Remembering what it feels like to be human again. To feel. To want. To be wanted not as a wife, or a label, or a checklist, but as a woman. A woman who could still stir. who could still burn. And maybe this was the beginning of something I couldn't unfeel. That night, the house was quiet in that strange way it gets after you've felt something forbidden stir inside you. Like the walls knew. Like the air was waiting for what came next. I moved through the motions, dinner, dishes, lights off. But everything felt too sharp. Too clear. Like my skin had been reawakened, and now the fabric of my own clothes was suddenly loud. When I crawled into bed, he was already there, facing the ceiling. One hand resting on his chest, rising and falling like it always did. I laid beside him, stiff at first, still carrying the weight of what I hadn't said. Then he touched my hip, just gently, like he was testing if the space between us was still safe to cross. "Are you okay?" he asked, soft. I could have lied. Said, "Yeah, just tired. Long day. All good." But something about the way he asked. He wasn't accusing. He wasn't even trying to solve. He was just there. Finally, present in a way I hadn't felt in so long. So I paused. Let the silence breathe between us. And then he asked again, quieter this time. "Am I not enough?" God, that question. It didn't come from insecurity. It came from love. That kind of love that wants to be enough. That tries to be. That bends itself in circles until it forgets where it began. I turned toward him slowly, found his eyes in the dark. And I said, You are enough. But I am more." That stopped something in the air. I'm more than what I let myself ask for. More than what I learned I was allowed to need. And I swallowed. Hard. I think I need to be touched where you can't reach. Not because he failed me. Not because he wasn't strong or kind or devoted. But because I was waking up to something inside me that I didn't even know had fallen asleep. And once you feel that pulse again, that hunger for being truly seen, it's hard to go back to sleep. He didn't say anything for a while. Just looked at me. And in his silence, I didn't feel judgment. I felt sadness. I felt the weight of all the ways we had drifted without realizing. Of how easy it is to become strangers under the same blanket. Then he whispered, "If I could give you more, without losing us, would you take it?" My breath caught. Would you let someone else fill in the cracks? It didn't feel like a test. It didn't feel like a trap. It felt like a hand on the small of my back, guiding me toward the truth I was afraid to name. I didn't answer right away, because I was scared of what yes might mean. Scared of what no would cost me. But deep down, I knew the answer wasn't about permission. It was about becoming whole again. Not because he wasn't loving me right, but because I had stopped loving me the way I needed. I turned toward him fully, placed my palm over his chest, feeling the slow beat of his heart. And I said, "If you could hold me through it, not push me, not punish me, just witness me, I think I'd let it happen." He closed his eyes, exhaled something deep, then the smallest nod. And that was it. The crack wasn't just in me anymore. It was ours. And something about that made it feel less shameful, less dirty, more human. We didn't talk much after that. Just held each other like we were trying to memorize what was still here, before it changed forever. Because something had changed. The question had been asked. And the door quietly, tenderly had been left open. The next morning felt strange. Not heavy, not guilty, just stretched. Like the air between me and everything else had grown thin and electric. I moved slower, but I felt more awake than I had in weeks. Even coffee tasted sharper. The clink of the spoon, the curl of the steam, everything was louder, closer. And then I heard it. That same knock. Low, solid, intentional. Not rushed like someone delivering packages. Not casual like a neighbor. It was the kind of knock that asked permission, but also told you it already knew the answer. I opened the door, and there he was again. The same dark jeans. The same quiet eyes. The same calm weight in the way he stood. And slung over his shoulder the black case. He stepped inside like the house already knew him. And maybe it did. This time, the job was in the basement. Or that's what we told ourselves. My husband stood behind me when I let him in. Silent. Still. I felt his presence like a hand between my shoulder blades. Not pushing, just there. He didn't say anything, just watched the man take off his boots, kneel down, and unzip the case. That sound. That thick, low rip of the zipper. It felt like something ancient had been opened. He pulled out the big tool. Cordless, heavy, thick in his palm. And suddenly it hit me. I wasn't here to fix the basement. I was here to be broken open. He stood up, his hand gripping the handle with that same quiet certainty. And for a second, just one breath. We all stood there, frozen, like something unspoken was passing between all three of us. Then my husband touched my shoulder. Gentle. "I'll be upstairs," he said. And he meant it. But when the door at the top of the basement stairs swung shut behind him, I noticed something. It didn't latch. It hovered just barely open. A crack. Enough for sound. Enough for a sliver of light. And suddenly I understood. He wanted to know. Not interfere. Not control. But witness. Not just me, but us. The me I had been holding back. The version of myself that I kept behind closed lids and breathless moments. I walked down the stairs slowly. Each step felt like peeling something back. A layer. A rule. A story I had told myself about what good women do. He was already kneeling near the pipes when I got to the bottom. Focused. Methodical. The air down there was colder. And yet my skin felt hot, prickling with every second. He didn't speak. He just reached for the wrench. Turned it in a slow, deliberate arc. Click. Turn. Click. Turn. And I watched. Not just what he did, but how he was. Steady. Rooted. He wasn't rushing to finish. He wasn't trying to impress. He was inside the moment. And I realized how long it had been since someone existed fully in front of me. Not thinking about what was next. Not distracted. Not numbing. Just present. My husband used to be like that. Before the bills. Before the routines. Before the quiet became a wall instead of a comfort. But now, this man. He held a pipe like he knew it could burst if handled wrong. And I wondered, what would he do with me? He turned, finally, and looked up at me. His eyes didn't ask. They invited. Not like a man asking for permission. Like a man recognizing something. Already unraveling inside me. I didn't smile. I didn't blush. I just exhaled. Soft. Slow. And stepped 1 inch closer. I could feel the house breathing with me. The floor above still. I knew he was up there. Listening. Waiting. But not afraid. Because this wasn't about betrayal. It was about release. It was about two people. One kneeling with tools. And one standing with an ache that had nowhere else to go. And the one upstairs. Letting it happen. Letting me happen. For the first time in forever. I wasn't shrinking. I was opening. He didn't reach for my waist. Didn't press me against anything. He just lifted his eyes and asked, quietly, "Can I touch your wrist?" My wrist. That soft part of me I forget I have. I nodded. And when his fingers met my skin, the world slowed. Not like a movie scene. Not dramatic. Just still. Present. His hands were calloused, but they moved like prayers. Not rough. Not taking. Just feeling. I didn't realize how long it had been since someone just felt me. Not for what they needed. Not for what came next. But for what I was. He pressed his thumb into my pulse. And I swear, it echoed all the way to my ribs. And for a moment, I stopped bracing. I let him hold that small, forgotten part of me. Like it mattered. Like I did. He moved up, slowly. To the crook of my elbow. To the base of my neck. To the slope of my collarbone. And there, he just hovered. His fingertips skimming the surface like he was reading a language. Only he knew how to speak. The way he traced that edge. I forgot my name. Forgot the story I came from. My knees softened. My lips parted, but no words came. Because none would have made sense in that moment. Nothing logical exists when someone sees you like you're made of silk and fire. I didn't need to explain, didn't need to perform. I just melted. And he caught every drop, patient, focused, breathing with me. When I opened my eyes, he was already looking at me. Not at my body, not at the parts one cover. At me. He didn't smile, didn't blink. He just held my gaze like he was building something. No rush, no apology, just truth. He stepped closer, not touching it, but commanding the space around me. It was then I realized. I wasn't a job. I wasn't something to be fixed or finished. I was a cathedral, one he was learning how to rebuild. Stone by stone, breath by breath. He didn't ask me to do anything. He didn't move fast. He just stayed. And sometimes that's more intimate than anything physical. To be stared at with reverence. Not desire alone, but respect. It undid something deep, ancient, forgotten. And then, I felt it. Another presence. The soft creak of the top step. A shift in the air. A stillness behind me. I didn't turn. I didn't need to. I knew. My husband was there. Not angry. Not scared. Just still. Watching. Breathing. Holding the silence like a blessing. He didn't interrupt. Didn't ask me to stop. He needed this too. To see me come back to life. Even if it wasn't his hands doing the waking. And I opened more. Not because I was showing off. Not because I wanted attention. Because I was safe. Seen by both. Held by neither. Free in the middle. I breathed out. And the man in front of me caught that breath. Like it was made of gold. It wasn't just touch anymore. It was sound. Breath. Light. The weight of awareness pressing in from all sides. The man circled me once. Slowly. Like a craftsman admiring his work. But not rushing to finish. My husband remained at the top of the stairs. Silent, yes. But present. His eyes were like anchors. They didn't pull me down. They kept me steady. And in that moment, their energies braided. One was the giver. One was the watcher. And I was the receiver. The space where everything collided. It was like being wrapped in yes. Not forced. Not pushed. Just surrounded. Like air. And water. And hands that didn't just want to touch, but wanted to witness. I didn't feel ashamed. Or dirty. Or unfaithful. I felt chosen. Held by choice. By permission. By something deeper than rules. This wasn't about breaking vows. This was about remembering myself. In the presence of someone who saw the parts one forgot how to show. I closed my eyes. And, for the first time in years, I didn't feel alone. It wasn't about the body anymore. It wasn't even about the hands or the eyes or the breath against my skin. It was about being allowed to fall apart. To be unheld and still safe. To be cracked open and not be told to close back up. I had spent so long being careful. So long folding myself into what was expected. Into wife. Into partner. Into calm, capable woman who doesn't need too much. But here, in this warm, dim, unfinished basement, with dust hanging in the light like golden ash, I unraveled. He didn't touch me then. Not in the way people expect. He just stayed close. One palm on my back. His thumb tracing small circles like he was reminding me. You're still here. You didn't disappear. My husband hadn't left. He was behind me. Not breathing heavy. Not shifting. Just watching with tears in his eyes. Not from jealousy. From recognition. He saw the woman he married come back to life. And he knew. He hadn't failed me. We'd just grown in different directions. Until someone else found a thread I hadn't known was loose. And when I reached the edge, that place where breath disappears and time stutters, I cried. Not from pain. Not from shame. From arriving. From finally being inside a moment that asked nothing of me except truth. No pretending. No performing. Just being exactly as I was. I was lightning. Sharp, sudden, blinding. I was flood. Every held-back ache spilling forward at once. I was sky, cracked open by something soft, and wild, and divine. And then, stillness. Not quiet, not empty, but sacred. My heart stopped clawing, my chest softened, my breath returned like a lover who'd left, but never meant to. I laid my palm on my own chest and felt it beating. Slow, real, whole. I didn't need to be forgiven. There was nothing to forgive. This wasn't betrayal. This was birth. And as I stood there, bare and filled and remade, I heard the faint creak of the stairs again. But this time, it didn't shake me. It grounded me. Because I wasn't reaching anymore. I was complete. Later, the house was quiet in a new way. Not empty. Not lonely. But full, like something sacred had passed through and left its breath on the walls. The basement door was still open, but the handyman was gone. His tools packed. No words exchanged. He didn't need to say goodbye. He had never been here to stay. I sat on the couch, knees tucked up beneath a blanket, my skin still humming in places that had never known their own depth. The air tasted different. Cleaner. Like something stale had been cleared from my lungs. My husband walked over. Not slowly. Not cautiously. Just openly. He sat beside me, not asking permission, just belonging. And when he touched my face, gently, reverently, his thumb resting just beneath my eye like he was checking if I'd really been crying, he said, "You look like you've finally come home." And something broke again. But this time it was joy. Because he saw me. Not the act. Not the body. Not the choices. He saw me. The woman beneath the years. The longing. The ache. The river that had waited far too long to be named. I looked at him. And for the first time in what felt like forever, there was no gap between us. No space filled with silence or pretending. I wasn't reaching anymore. I wasn't trying to be wanted. I wasn't trying to be enough. I just was. Whole. Held. Here. And he didn't ask for anything. Not answers. Not promises. Not guarantees. He just placed his hand over mine and rested his head on my shoulder. Not as a man who had lost, but as one who had witnessed something sacred, and was grateful to still be part of its story. That night, we didn't speak much. We didn't need to. Some moments don't ask to be filled with words. They just want to be remembered. Quietly. Honestly. And with breath between them. And when I closed my eyes, wrapped in that blanket, his arm heavy around me, I didn't dream of escape. I didn't dig for more. I simply exhaled and knew I had arrived. I want you to stay with me here for a moment. Look right into this into me. Not as a story or a secret, but as something real, something raw, something that maybe you felt too, or feared you might, if giving someone what they need, even if it means stepping aside with love, letting them find a place beyond just you. Could you do that? Is loving someone sometimes about letting go, not because you stop caring, but because love doesn't always live in being the only one? Can you hold the weight of that truth? That love is messy, complicated, sometimes broken, and still find grace in the pieces? I'm asking because I've been there, and maybe you have too. Tell me, what would you do? How far would you go to be seen? To be known? To be whole? I'm genuinely curious. Because these stories aren't just whispers in the dark. They're the pulse beneath all our lives. At Olivia Touching Tales, we don't just tell stories. We remember what it feels like to be felt, to be held in vulnerability, to be witnessed without judgment, to find home in the midst of chaos. If this story touched you, if it stirred something deep, please like, subscribe, and come closer next time. Thank you for letting me take you there.